Hello and welcome to part 3 of QED's Data 2. Now we're going to start looking at quite a rich data set of data from Honduras collected by the World Bank in 2012. And we're going to build up the analysis from zero. So we need to clear everything we've got in Stata and then load in this data file. You can also put clear star, but I'll stick to clear all for now. It's the same thing. I'm going to take this one because I think I'll explain why I'm using that one, the working one. As I said in the discussion in the notes, it's best to keep a spare copy. So the one that I've called working data, that's the one I'm going to work with to make sure I don't muck up the original version of the data. So I suggest you create these working copies when you're working with data, because it's so easy to accidentally save and destroy your original data set. Anyway, so we cleared it, we load the data, and then describe's going to get an overview of what's in the data set. So describe in here. So here, much more substantial data set. So you should be able to answer these questions. How many observations, how many variables holding scale data? So please pause the video and think about that. These 3 questions, and especially this one at the end is slightly trickier. So pause it and then here's the answers. There's 1,500 observations. That's 1,500 different households. 42 variables, which is quite a large complex data set, but the original one I downloaded from the World Bank has got 640, I think. So I've winnowed it out to ones that are more interesting, a bit more manageable. Now I'm going to look for how many scale data, scale variables there are. Well, this is all just categorical stuff about where people live. And you get to here, how many people live in the household? That's the scale data, that's 1. How many children? 2. All this stuff about quality of life is all ordinal data. Do you have a fridge, television? That's just yes or no, nominal data. Also, what's the main type of lighting? Is about characteristics of the house. Did you work last week? Remittances. What's the value of remittances? So they're asking about money sent by other relatives to this household. So that's the value of remittances is a scale data. And what percentage is that of your household income? That's scale data. So that's 4. The next one I think is down here. I've done that 65. I think the next one's here. What's the monthly income of your household? This one. So there's only 5. Some of these others, they're not actually. This one on how much do you spend on your mobile phone, and this last one, the monthly income of your household, is not. Those have been put into categories, so they've really turned into ordinal data. So there's 5 variables with scale data in them. That's the answer to that. Okay, so let's get going. A new do file. So using the menu button. So you press this thing here for a new do file. I think I've already done it at home and it pops up like this. There we go. So you get that from that button there. I've given it a name. Honduras, working again, in case I raise it. So give yours a sensible name. Oh yeah, and then put in the first few lines from the do file from last week and change it appropriately. So if I do some quick typing into here, get that. So I've just changed the title slightly to close the logs, set more off, given this a different name to record the output, but apart from that it's the same. Okay, so first thing we're actually going to do is, one thing that's really confusing when you're working with data like this is that the variable names in the data set are not meaningful. It's all this stuff like H, what does this mean? H1, H2, H3, H4. In actual fact, it is quite handy to have that, but it's in these labels anyway. What that corresponds to is, let me show you. It's the original questionnaire, which you can download from the site, just I think from the World Bank site. So this is what people were asked. So H1, are you the head of the household? How many people live in the household? Can you tell me? So this is what the person has in front of them when they're asking, going through the questions with each household. So it tells them how to code each possible answer. So it's quite useful to have this if you don't understand what the data means. But it's nice to have that, but I think it's enough to have it here in the value label. It's a pain to have it here because I can't tell when I look at this what on earth it means. So what I suggest in this analysis is, as we go through it, the variables we're using we're going to rename. So this first one, H2, actually stands for the household size. So we just rename it. So here's a new command this week. Rename H2 household size. So I'll type that in. And give it a label. So type that in. And then to make it work, you've got to select part of the command. Remember, you don't just click in it, you select it. So you've got to select at least one character so it comes up in green. So it comes up in blue rather. So select a bit like that. Then you can press Control D and it just does that one thing. Then here, if you look carefully, there it used to say H2, now it says household size. So that's been renamed, so it's worked. So if we rename that, great. Now we use summarize to get the mean and standard deviation of the variable and create a histogram for it. And do it by putting commands in do file. So hopefully you've paused it, you're doing that. So that's what's going to give you the detailed stats. That's what's going to draw the histogram. Remember these commands, freak. Getting ahead of myself. Frequency makes it do the frequency, and we want to do just those two commands. So select a bit on both lines, Control D. There's the details, and in a few moments' time, it's going to cook us a histogram. So here comes the histogram. There's the stats. Okay, and as I said, put some comments in like that. Okay, so based on these details we've got, from the summarize command, we've got the mean and standard deviation for that variable, which is the mean is 5.04, standard deviation is 2.17. So if this was normally distributed, if you got a normal distribution with this mean, this standard deviation, how many do you think would be over 8? And we can look at 5, 6, 7, 8. How many are going to be over 8 if you, in normal distribution with those characteristics? So it's a kind of Z-score type question for you to work out. So see if you can work out that Z-score type question and then combine it with, we'll compare it with how many there actually are in that range. But I'll come back to that in the next video. So for now, thanks for watching.